it's always been hard when people ask, oh, what's your testimony? I'm like, well, I don't know where to start. And something that Soleil told me, when she had asked me, well, tell me your story, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I was like, well, what do you want to hear? She was like, no, like, you're already trying to shift yourself into trying to serve me. I was like, but I just want to hear from you, genuine Angie. So tell me, like, whatever comes to mind, and it doesn't have to be perfect, or it doesn't have to be, what's the word? Rehearsed.
Here at Letters of Encounter, we share stories of parishioners and young adults like yourself who've been blessed by experiences here at our parish. It could be events, it could be an encounter you've had with someone, or an encounter with the Lord. What led you to get involved with our ministry here at Our Lady of Guadalupe?
Being a part of Our Lady of Guadalupe for over 20 years. I've lived in Whittier, so I feel like OLG has been a part of my life since we've moved here back in 2005. Being Catholic my whole life and growing up in the sense of knowing who God was, but not knowing how to create or have a genuine relationship, because I always saw him as a superior, not so much as a father figure. But as I grew older, there was just that thirst or that pull towards a community, a parish where it's so alive, like Our Lady of Guadalupe. There's so much, activity here that to the point where there's something for everyone. And so growing up, it was just kind of finding where I belong, because out in the secular world, as where we live in, it's hard to figure out where you fit in. Sometimes I think, oh, I'm too Catholic, or I'm not Catholic enough. So it's just trying to find a balance or a mean to where I was seen, I felt heard, and somewhere where I could be myself, but also love the Lord within all that. I think it's been over a year since I've put a prayer intention in my heart that I really wanted to get involved in young adult ministry. And my younger brother and I have been in search since we kind of grew up in ministry and missionary work with as a family. And as we grew up, we kind of wanted to grow and strengthen our faith and just learn more. I feel like for me, going to church just once a week on Sundays just wasn't fulfilling that emptiness or the hollowness of wanting to get to know the Lord and wanting a relationship. And I knew that I wasn't going to find that just by sitting on a pew, because that's where doubt started to happen, in the sense of, what's my purpose? What's my calling? How can I serve the Lord? But it wasn't until recently at the Crown Retreat, the Orange County Diocese, where the topic was, finding joy in suffering. And I was like, that's what it was this whole time. My mom would always tell me, if you do something and if it costs you energy or time, offer it to the souls in purgatory. Offer it to the souls. So since then, I've had like a huge devout to saints that just live their day-to-day. I would love to be a Joan of Arc, but here and then, there's already one, There's not a Saint Angelica yet. So that's something that I've always wanted to strive and just do small acts, or just anything of little suffering. Hey, Lord, I'm offering it to you.
It felt like everyone was able to be themselves without feeling the need to be perfect.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, and a sense of belonging, like you said, that you were looking for before the ministry, right? Like, you've grown up here your whole life, but that sense of belonging you were still searching for. And I think it's so beautiful that you are still here where you grew up, and the Lord provides and meets you exactly where you're at. And also, like, in response, you were receptive to that and open.
And finding that community here with the women's group, or now with being a leader for the teens.
Yes, tell me a little bit more about that, because now, like, we're kind of transitioning.
Oh my gosh, what a great
big one.
A big wink. It was more like the eye flutters or.
Okay, so now you're sort of transitioning into missionary disciple. Yes. I don't know if you've heard of that term, but you've encountered the Lord and you want to share that, and there's a way for you to share that here, which is being a catechist. For teens. It's been a month since you've been doing that?
I believe so, a little over a month.
Yeah. How has that been like, and how has that changed your relationship with God?
I think God is so good. He is so kind and patient, to the point where I think I've always had a calling for it, but I just didn't know how to ask for it. And I know God always says, you know, I know your heart, I know your intentions, but I want you to ask me. I want you to have that, you know, relationship with me. And sure enough, I was offered to be a catechist back when I was a teenager. Like once I had just finished my confirmation, I was offered to be a catechist at a different parish. And I just wasn't ready. And waited until now that I've had the experience or the maturity, I could say. And it wasn't until a day of volunteering at the Roast and Toast here at a typical Sunday of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And in the midst of making, you know, lattes and making paninis and greeting people, giving donuts, a lovely lady by the name of Soleil approached me, and as we were getting into conversation, she was like, you know what? She was just staring at me, just gazing, and I was like, I have something in my teeth. I either have, you know, it was really hot that day, so my mascara was running, I don't know what. She's like, I like you. And I was like, okay, I like you too. And she's like, well, she was just so straight out. She's like, would you be interested in like teaching or being a catechist or I forgot how she mentioned it, but she caught me so off guard, but it was just the most easiest yes. And I didn't, keep in mind, didn't know her. I think it was like her first week on the job. And I just saw her love and enthusiasm, and I can just see her heart. And she was like, we are trying to teach teenagers, and we're trying to do confirmation, we're switching things up, and would you be interested? And I was like, whoa. And I was like, been on the other side as a student, but to be a catechist, and I was like, that is a challenge. And I was like, but I did pray on it, and I did want more involvement, and I was like, oh, be careful with what you wish for, what you pray for, because sure enough, you know, God would come in and deliver, you know, 2 times more or 5 times more. So she had asked if I would be interested, and I keep in mind, doing a doctorate's program and very involved with my family and trying to maintain healthy relationships.
I don't know how you do it.
And working, and me too. And I was like, Lord, you're so good. I was like, there's moments where I'm just like, how am I? And I'm not doing it all by myself. And with that, I mentioned, but I still said yes. And I was like, you know what? I'll leave it in God's hands. I'll know more about it once I get a schedule for the upcoming year or the next semester in school. I'll know where I stand with my schedule. But I just told Soleil, yes, sign me up. Here's my number. And it wasn't until then where, you know, that little self-doubt started creeping up. Can I do this? You know, can I take on this responsibility? You know, you're going to be a role model. You're going to be a catechist. You're going to be a leader. What kind of example do you want to leave for these teenagers? You know, you have to leave vices. You can't be living the same secular lifestyle that you did and say that you're one person and then, you know, turn around and be someone else just to fit in. So it was just a big commitment and something that I just needed that shift. I needed that change to kind of, you know, kick things into gear and truly live the calling that God has.
I love that. So being a leader kind of keeps you accountable.
It does.
It does. Actually living out the faith that you claim to have.
And I think it comes from being like a selfless perspective or wanting to serve others. And I'm a huge server. So if it's like, if I can't do it for me, I'll do it for them. And in that way, I can live through them. And seeing how it affects them gives me light, gives me hope, gives me like, hey, you know what? If I can, you know, do an act of kindness and they can see that for me is so rewarding. But that's something where it just started to unfold shortly after the Crown Retreat, and then it was the perfect start to become a catechist.
It's like breaking yourself open.
Oh my gosh. It was during adoration where I felt that surrender, and just my cup just was overflowing with so much love and forgiveness and just like unconditional love. Like I didn't have to hear or see a sign or hear God's voice. He was there in the presence, and it was just seeing everyone else and being in union. I felt like that cabin was shining brighter than the stars out that night.
Yeah,
it was such a beautiful experience. So
thank you so much, Angie.
Oh
that was such a beautiful story, and thank you for sharing. Because in sharing your story, you're reminded of God's love and providence, and you're blessing other people who are listening to this as well.
I'm still figuring out on the way, but it's just the most beautiful process, because now it's our Lord next to me carrying that cross. It's just something that I also learned about, you know, the joy and suffering and having our crown of thorns and having that walk with our Lord.